In this video, we're going to try running the workflow specs that we've transitioned to run on REANA on the CERN REANA instance. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to clone the GitLab project for the workflow specs locally. And check out the REANA branch. Okay, now before we go through the instructions for running locally, there's a few things that I want to update. So first, I want to update the steps.yaml file so that it's using, in the event selection, the latest tag for the image that got produced with the updated Docker file. So I'll go into, the GitLab project for the event selection and go into the container registry. Now I can copy the latest image that, or tag that got produced. Actually, I can just copy the tag name and update that in the steps.yaml file. And then the other thing that I want to do is update the REANA.yaml file so that it's running over all of the events in the input signal T tree, because that's really the big advantage of running on REANA, is that we can take advantage of the resources that it has available to run full statistics workflows. So I'll make that update. And then the last thing that I want to do is actually remove the .gitlab CI file, because it's no longer going to pertain to running the workflow on REANA. Okay, now that that's done, let's go through the instructions for actually running the workflow on REANA. So that's in this section just underneath the instructions we followed for making the modifications. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is set up the REANA client, and we can do that in a virtual environment. So I'll just copy the commands for that directly from the docs. Okay, good. So there's also some instructions for sourcing the activation script needed to set up the REANA client on LX Plus if you want to just access REANA from LX Plus. That's also an option. But in this video, we're going to do it locally. Now, the next thing that we need to do is set up the environment variables that we need to access the REANA cluster running at CERN. And the way that we do that is we go on to the reana.cern.ch website. So I'll just exit the tabs and show you how to get there. Right, sorry. There's something else I have to do. So because I'm not running on the CERN network, I have to use this shuttle command to tunnel into the network so that I can have access to the REANA website. Okay, so now hopefully the website will load. Good. Okay, so it's gone directly to my user account, but I just want to quickly sign out and show you what it'll look like if you try logging in for the first time. So I'll just clear the site data. And I'll try signing in with a service account that does not yet have a token to access the REANA cluster. So in this case, you get this welcome page that gives you a button that you can click that will request a token. So that's how you request a token when you initially log into the REANA cluster, and it'll hopefully be processed in a day or two. Okay, so now I'm going to sign back into my user account. Okay, now you can click this button on the top right and go to your profile. And this is where you get the commands that are used to set up the environment variables that the REANA client uses to access this CERN cluster. So I'm just going to pause the video while I copy these into the command line locally and set those up. And the reason that I have to pause the video is because the access token is sensitive, so we don't want that to be made publicly accessible. Okay, so I've copied in these commands and set up those environment variables. So let's see what the next step is. Right, setting up Kerberos authentication. So you can just follow these instructions directly to set that up. So the first thing we need to do is to log into LX Plus. And then use this ktutil command to set up the Kerberos key tab file. So I'll just copy the ktutil commands directly, just updating to my username. Okay, and then we can copy the .keytab file from LX Plus into our local directory. And I'm actually going to copy that .keytab file into my home directory because that's where the subsequent commands are going to expect to find it. Okay. Now we can test the kinit with this .heat tab file and make sure that everything's working okay. Okay, so this klist command shows that there's a new ticket. So everything is looking pretty good. Now we can upload the secret onto the REANA cluster using this secrets add command. Right. So I actually already have this secret on my user account, so I'll just have to use the overwrite option to overwrite it with this secret. Okay, good. So that should be set up and we can move on to the next step. So the next step is to try running the workflow using the REANA client run command. And this W is specifying just the unique name for the analysis that we're running. So we're calling it my analysis. Okay, good. And because I've already used the identifier my analysis before, it added a .5 to make it unique. So that's what we'll use when we're like downloading outputs of the workflow and so on. So let's go over to REANA and see how that's running. Okay, so it seems to have finished the first step pretty quickly, so that's good. And we can go in and see that the output is looking reasonable. So we've processed about 2,000 events, and of those, around 600 have passed, so that's looking good. And once the stat analysis stage is finished, we can also check out the logs for that. Okay, so it looks like it finished. And we can quickly take a look at the logs for the stat analysis page, which are looking reasonable. So it looks like it's read in the background and data.root file and also the signal skimmed. And we can now go over and try downloading the output to make sure that it looks reasonable. I have to add this .5. Okay, so let's check that out. Good. That seems to be looking reasonable. I'll just double check that it's matching what we have in our README, where this the README example was run over full stats. So yeah, that is matching up. So that concludes it. We have successfully transitioned our recast workflow to run on REANA.